So welcome to the course on drawing on the iPad using ArtStudio. ArtStudio is a paid application. It's available in the App Store and it has many features similar to Photoshop, which is one of the reasons I like it. It also has some drawbacks. For example, the largest brush size it will support is 497 pixels. It also does not allow the brush tip to follow the direction of the stroke. But these shortcomings are sort of outweighed by the flexibility and the features that it offers us on this platform. So I'm using the iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil. You can do this course with just your finger, but I find that the pressure sensitivity of the Apple Pencil allows us to get some nice, interesting lines. So let's get started by resetting the default pencil. So we're both starting from the same position. And I'm just going to demonstrate what the default pencil looks like. Pretty uninteresting, okay? So let's tap the pencil settings and let's make a few adjustments to make it look more like a realistic pencil. We can scroll this panel up and down. So from the blur section, I'm going to select blurred. Moving down slightly, we have the lead in and lead out sizes. I'm going to set both of these to around sort of 3 to 5 pixels depending on where the slider seems to want to stop today. And let's change the overall size slightly. Let's pull this back down again. Okay, let's change the opacity down a little bit on all 3 sliders and change the spacing to sort of around 7. Sliding down a little bit further, we can ignore these speed, size and speed opacity sliders. If we click the information box, it tells us that these are only used to adjust the sensitivity of the speed size effect. What essentially this is doing is if you move or stroke the canvas fast, then it will affect how much of that lead-in value gets applied. It's really more complicated than it needs to be, so safely ignore those 2 settings. If we move further down, we have these jitter scatter values, and I kind of like to set mine around sort of 10. They're not really percentages or pixels, they're just a numeric value. So jitter scatter to 10, spacing to 10 as well, angle to 10, size to 10. We don't need to change the squeeze, but we will change the opacity to 10 and the saturation to 10 as well. So now if we test this new pencil, you can see it works much like a 2B pencil. And it gives us a nice, very realistic pencil texture. If we lower the opacity just a little bit more and make the brush tiny bit bigger, we can get a nice soft gradation just by zigzagging across the screen with the pencil, moving back and forth and gradually applying more pressure as we move down. And if we go over the same area multiple times, we get this nice gradated pencil effect. Okay, so let's select the eraser tool and let's just clear our canvas. We could also do the same thing by selecting edit and clear layer. So talking about layers, on the bottom left hand side we have what looks like a little stack of papers. If you click that, it brings up the layers palette. Currently we have 2 layers. The white one is the background and this clear checkerboard one with the blue outline is the currently active layer. Whatever we have on this layer can be made visible or invisible by turning on and off this eye symbol. There's a little A above it which is alpha lock, which means that if we were using a different color and we tried coloring with alpha lock turned on, it would only color or add color information to pixels that are already on that layer. So that's useful and we'll come back to that one later on. So for now, turn that one off. There's also a lock feature at the bottom, but we don't want to use that because that will stop us from being able to draw on the layer. You can press and hold a layer and give it a new name. You can add new layers using the icons at the bottom, and you can press and hold and rearrange these layers as you need. We can also delete a layer with the little trash can icon. So let's just make sure we're on our transparent layer. Click the pencil tool, make sure we've got all of our settings the way we want them to be. Select a nice black colour. Zoom the canvas down just a little bit so we get a better idea of composition or layout. So let's block in what we're going to be drawing. So we use some basic primitive shapes just to establish placement on the canvas. And we're going to be drawing a bird for this example. So very loosely, just starting to feel out the forms and the angles and the lines of what we think the bird is going to look like. You can most certainly use reference at this point, and I would encourage you to do so. The more experience you have, the easier you'll find it is to create these things from your imagination. But when getting started, it's very useful to have some reference. Okay, so this is our extremely loose and terribly bad sketch. So what we can do now is we can lower the opacity of this layer and create a new layer above it. Now we can go in and start to refine our sketch. So sticking with the pencil tool, let's focus in on the head just a little bit better. So this eye area here is really the focus of this bird. So pressing quite strongly with the pencil tool, we can establish a nice strong black for the eye. We can then start to move around our sketch, using it as sort of a framework to help find the overall silhouette of our sketch. Now as you move around, you may find that it makes the rest of your sketch underneath look disproportionate, which is okay because it is only there to inform us and to help us spot what is looking wrong in your drawing. So we are literally exploring the image as we sketch around. And I'm adding value to where I think there is going to be some colour change in the feather pattern of the bird. So under the beak area and sort of around the neck, giving a nice dark collar. And this pencil tool, when it's been customized in this way, has a really nice look to it, in my opinion. I think the beak can be darkened at this point. So now we're starting to develop our sketch. So at this point, we're still unsure of any of the details, but we're kind of getting closer in the overall impression just by building upon what we have in the layer underneath. And this is an important concept to grasp, is that quite often you'll never get the final drawing in the first version. It can take some iterations, and this is true whether it's digital or traditional pencil and paper. So what we're doing is we are feeling out the sketch as we go, and we are exploring where we want to place the lines. And the sketching style I'm doing here is really developed from using pencils to draw, where we lay down very light, loose strokes, and then we work over the top of them to build up and refine the image. So we've kind of got this folded wing shape here. Just indicating the notion of feathers, and this will remind me later on to put feathers in. So you'll see there that a little autosave popped up. This is also one of the nice features of ArtStudio on the iPad, is it does periodically save your work for you. Okay, so I think what we can do now is lower this tail from our initial sketch. And join it to the body just a little bit lower down. And pretty much all of this area is going to be dark, so we can lightly shade some value in now. And over the wing area as well. This is also a dark area. Okay, so the belly area, he's looking quite portly at the moment. He's got a nice healthy pose about him. So onto the legs.